everyone, this is Eric with GameBall, the gaming trackball mouse. Thought I would make another video. In this one I'm going to give you a quick update on where we're at with the design and the release date, and talk a little bit about some of the changes to GameBall. And then we're going to actually play a little bit of Remnant, and I'll talk about how I have that set up and how I play Remnant From the Ashes. So let's just dive right into it. So this particular unit is the probably closest to final we're going to get before we release the actual GameBall product. A lot of firmware changes and a few design changes. Probably the main physical change is the two buttons on each side have small ridges on there, and this is not exactly how it's going to look in the final version. But if you see there, you kind of get a feel. And the reason why we did that is feedback from the user community and their testers, where it was nice to have a little ridge there. It was more comfortable with your fingers and your thumb to be able to know kind of where you're at and have a resting place. So it's on your thumb as well as on the right mouse button where your finger sits there. So it's a small change, but actually makes a pretty big difference, and it definitely makes the unit a lot more comfortable. These are 3D printed buttons. This particular unit won't last forever, but it kind of gives you an idea of where we're at in the design and this unit itself. A few other changes, the LED button to change the colors is down here in front, and if you look, it changes the colors right here, and it just changes cycles through the various LED colors, one of those colors being off, which is what that is. So if you don't want any colors at all, you can turn that off. And then the lighting is through the sides of the buttons as well. One other change we'll have in the final unit is there'll be a plastic diffused lining in here, which will kind of diffuse those LED colors a little bit more. You'll see that on a lot of other gaming mice. It just looks a little bit better, and it kind of mellows out some of that lighting a bit. So that will be on the final version. We did have some firmware changes as well. So let me get into a menu and show you the scroll wheel. So the scroll wheel still works as it did before on the right side if you're right-handed. You can just do one swipe to do quick little moves, or you can scroll and hold, and it goes faster through the menu. So it's really handy in large documents or large menus. But we did change the left scroll wheel. If you're right-handed, is a horizontal scroll. It doesn't work here because I don't have a horizontal menu I'm looking at, but if you're doing video editing or audio editing, it's very handy, and that was feedback from a user on Facebook, and we incorporated that change, and it's actually very handy. Not so much in too many games, but when you're working in large documents where you have a horizontal scroll, or you're doing video or audio editing, comes in really handy. So that's one of the changes. The DPI button is still this button, so if you look, get out the menu here, if you look how the sensitivity is, and then I press that button and it scales it down quite a bit. This is also the button you'll use to change your native DPI settings. So if you press and hold, let me get it to where you can see the colors there, or the lighting. If you press and hold, the lighting will change after 3 seconds, and it'll blink telling you what setting it's in. So for example, it's going to change here. So that was 4, so it was setting 4. So that changes your native DPI settings, and then you press and hold, and it'll blink and go to the next setting. That's 5, so that's setting number 5. And if you press and hold, it should go to 1. It should blink once. And then that is a much lower resolution, so it doesn't move as much. On the unit, I prefer setting 3, so let me set it back there. So that's 2. Press and hold. And that's 3. So that's really handy on the fly without software, being able to change the native DPI settings. You can still go into Windows and obviously change that through software, but people really wanted hardware settings. So what I recommend is finding a setting that's close to what you prefer, and then going into Windows and kind of tweaking a little bit to exactly how you like, how you want the mouse movement to be. So that's, again, firmware changes work on Linux, Mac, Windows. All these buttons, device will be native on all 3 of those platforms. So that's a handy new feature. The goal is not to have any software with this unit, so you can do everything on the fly, make your changes, change your LED. You don't have to go into any software. You can do that all on the unit itself. So that's where we're at with some of the changes. We did have to push back our release date We were trying to release it in January, February, kind of earlier in 2020, but due to some internal delays, we have to push it back to more middle of the year. Unfortunate, but we want to get this thing out as soon as possible. But at the same time, we don't want to get out a product that's an unfinished product or not exactly the way we want it. So more towards the middle of the year. A lot of people also ask about the price for GameBall. We don't have a final price yet. The goal is to be in line with your high-end gaming mice. I want to try to keep it under $100 US, or at least close to it as possible. So that's kind of the goal, but I cannot commit to a price yet. We will have a pre-release version, and that version's going to be red with a black base, but the final version we decided to go all black. And the reason being is if you change your colors, you don't want to conflict with like a green lighting scheme and a blue ball. So we went with a lot of feedback from our user testers as well as online users in Reddit, that type of thing. And we went with an all black design. If you do, however, want to be able to purchase different colored balls, we will be selling a kit, not at release, but eventually, where you'll be able to buy 4 or 5 balls, different colored balls in a kit, and be able to swap those out as you need it. We'll offer that, but the first version will be red, and then after that it'll be an all black design, which is kind of where we're at now with that, and I think that's going to end up being how we are final. So that's some of the changes, where we're at with the date, kind of give you an idea on the pricing. So hopefully that helps give you a quick update on GameBall and kind of where we're at. Now let me get into Remnant From the Ashes and do a little gameplay there. So Remnant is a cooperative shooter. You can play it single player, but I'd probably recommend it multiplayer. It's a very good game. It really grew on me. It can be a very difficult game. You'll die a lot. I might die in this video. We'll see how it goes. But it's one that's definitely challenging, but it's also pretty rewarding, and the gameplay is just excellent. If you like first-person shooters, it has a kind of a Dark Souls feel to it, where it can be definitely difficult. It has checkpoints, and as you play through the game, if you use a checkpoint, it respawns all your monsters, and then the goal is to get to a final boss fight. So we have finished the game, me and some friends. This is on hard mode. I'm just going through a little area here. You can do separate adventures once you finish the main game, and kind of go through and just set up like a certain area to kind of play through and have some different boss monster fights in there. So the way I have this set up for Remnant is, your left mouse button, which was interesting the way they did this, is a melee attack, unless you have the sights zoomed in, and then it becomes a rifle attack. So that's your left mouse button. Your right mouse button is, down the sights, and then the way I have this set up is if it's a scoped weapon, your upper left mouse button becomes your zoom. So that's the way I have it set up. So again, I press that button and go in and out of zoom if I have a scoped weapon. So that's the top left button, and then the left mouse button on the bottom there is again your fire and melee. Your middle mouse button on this side is to ping a certain point of interest. So if you click on something, it'll tell your teammates if there's a bad guy or something you want to fight. I actually don't use the back button here. Most games I use this as a map, but this one has a map up all the time, and it's really not as needed, so I really just use those main buttons. I have other buttons set up for what's effectively your health. You get so many of these Dragon Heart charges per save, and that allows you to heal yourself. So those are on the hotkeys, as well as I have potions and various things on the numbered keys 1 through 4, and you can see those down on the bottom left. So that's the way I have the game set up. I actually prefer, right now, I'm using the Chicago typewriter and the submachine gun. I have a couple pieces of radiant gear, hunter shroud, and a couple other rings and various items that I use. This is kind of my setup. Sometimes I'll use the sniper rifle, but I generally prefer this build. It's kind of fun. It also matches kind of the way I like to play the game. So that's some of the settings I have for Remnant. So let's get into the gameplay, and I'll talk a little bit about the game as we're going. So this is definitely a game where, if you're not careful, things can swarm you pretty easily. You kind of want to try to take out critters from range at first if you can. If you get too far into the game, they will They will swarm you and you can die very, very easily. So if you're playing with friends and you have a buddy who loves to run out in front of everybody else, he or she is probably going to die a lot. So it's good to be a little cautious at times, kind of scope out where you're at, where your bad guys are. You do have bullet drop off in damage, so if you're fighting too far away, you're not going to do as much damage. So sometimes it's good to have a sniper guy with you who can take out some of the guys at range, and then a couple close fighters.
What is that?
You can do melee too. Very viable. I prefer gunplay, but melee is an option if you want to go that way. I'm just going to use a mod here to kill that guy. Mods are pretty handy in this game. Helps take out the big bad guys as well. That one is Swarm is the name of it. I'm going to use my little dragon heart here to heal myself up. Not that far down, but kind of show you how that works. But you can die pretty quickly, so...
What? Oh shit.
Trying to keep your health up as high as possible is pretty important. Yeah, you get radiation damage and different types of damage types, corrosive. Take a little potion to get rid of that. You also have basic health potions you can take in addition to your dragon heart. So I will do another dragon heart here. Oh. They end up dodging a lot in this game, diving out of the way. One real handy dodge is just simply pressing the space bar. You do a quick little duck and dodge, and that will get you out of the way of enemies a lot of times. So it's a handy one. Doesn't take as much stamina either. Let's see, we only had a couple boss guys, or mini bosses rather. The game is a lot of fun. Like I said, definitely recommend it. Not going to get to a boss fight in this video, but the boss fights get very difficult. They're definitely enjoyable though. A lot of fun. Definitely challenging, that's for sure. Nope. Don't want to be too close to that guy. Try to get some range on me. I'm going to actually let my mod chew him up a little bit. That guy can knock you down pretty quickly. So that mod swarm is handy. As you can see, it can do a lot of damage to him while you're running away. And just kind of finish him off. If you play the game or plan on playing the game, that's the mod swarm. Once you get that, I'd recommend it. It's, as you can see, it does a good amount of damage. Builds up pretty quickly. Oh, I need to take some health. I must have done it.
Oh, that was terrible.
Yeah, that was kind of terrible. Had a audio commentary by your character is pretty funny at times. Good game though. Like I said, I'd recommend it. Get some friends, go through the game. Don't get too frustrated when you die because that's kind of the way the game is. Just kind of take your time. Again, if you rush into things, you can get killed pretty quickly. Too careful. Usually the more cautious guy, but just kind of showing you how to do this game. Of course, headshots are pretty important. If you can get them. Where that guy went. I'll show you the submachine gun. Similar type of weapon. It also has a mod on it that builds up as the more damage you do. My preference for the game.
Oh, I'm in trouble.
Oh, and I'm down. I got greedy. I wanted to demonstrate how you die in this game, so there you go. Anyway, that's Remnant from the Ashes. If you do die, it respawns all the monsters in your area, so you get a fun time of going through it again. But that's the game. A lot of fun. You get some friends, go out and play it. I think you'd like it. So that's the update on GameBall. That's kind of where we're at with the design. Hopefully that helped. Please, if you want to see more videos, you can go to our YouTube channel. I have some videos on Borderlands 3 that I've played with GameBall, World of Warcraft, a few others, so take a look at that. And then if you need more information on the unit itself or to watch us more closely, you can go to our website at www.gamingtrackball.com. There is also a subreddit for trackballs, which I post a lot of information and updates, and I ask for feedback on there as well. So I appreciate you watching the video today. Hopefully you learned a little bit more about GameBall and got to see some of it in action with Remnant from the Ashes. So we will talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye.